Hi, I'm Robin.
And I'm Chris. Together we're the Gen X couple.
Hey guys.
Take one. Hello, everyone.
I was told that I rambled a lot and I was made to cut off the last episode. But yet, before we recorded, he sat and scrolled on his phone for 10 minutes and made me wait. So I feel like we're even. Anyway, today, if you saw the title, you already know this. We are going to talk about the red-headed hitchhiker of the Bridgewater Triangle. This is one of my favorite stories and local legends of all time, aside from the Puckwudgies, which we are going to cover on a separate episode, but I already had this one done and scheduled. But we had done an episode on the Bridgewater Triangle when we first started podcasting, so if you're new here, scroll all the way back. I think we did that in our first month, so that would be October of 2025, but you'll see it. I don't know if it was a one or a two-part episode, I don't remember. But here in Bridgewater, we've got the Bridgewater Triangle, and we'll give you a little recap about that in a second. But I wanted to do a deep dive on the red-headed hitchhiker. And I'm really excited about it. So the Bridgewater Triangle is a mysterious stretch of southeastern Massachusetts, and it's expanded, I think, since it was originally coined by Lauren Coleman. But it's in the shape of a triangle, although we all know the entire state is haunted anyway. But it's the triangle's points are roughly Abington, Rehoboth, and Freetown. And in that episode, we talked about some of the strange lights in the forest, some weird animal sightings, thunderbirds, and even a few UFO reports. But today, we really wanted to hone in on the red-headed hitchhiker. So here we go.
Yeah, and if everyone who hasn't driven down that stretch of road late at night, it's hard to overstate how eerie it can feel.
Did I say it was on Route 44? I might have cut that part off. It's on Route 44.
The road itself isn't unusual in the daylight. It's just a standard Massachusetts two-lane passing through small towns and patches of forest. But after dark, the trees press closer, the streetlights vanish, and there are a stretch where it feels like the headlights are the only thing that's keeping the darkness at bay. And that's where people say they see him, a lone figure standing, waiting silently.
Yeah, that is a creepy stretch. It's over by Inawan Rock, which I'm not going to get into, but we did talk about that in our Bridgewater Triangle episode. But there's a whole section of Route 44 at night that is super creepy.
Yes.
Yes. But unlike other ghost stories, this particular one that we're going to talk about doesn't involve gate slamming, sudden noises, or full-blown apparitions. The red-headed hitchhiker is described as quiet, still, and very human in appearance. Reports consistently describe him as a man with bright red hair, pale skin, medium build, wearing jeans and a jacket that are often dark in color. I've also heard stories about him in overalls, but I think it's more the jacket's like plaid, like a lumberjack sort of a jacket. And it's really his presence that gets people. It's that unshakable feeling that something isn't quite right. And that's, I think, what people remember the most about him.
Right, and the earliest accounts go back decades. According to local legend, one driver in the 1970s, a man commuting home late, saw him standing by the side of the road near a curve. He slowed down, glanced over, and when he looked back moments later, the man had vanished. Completely, no footsteps, no car, just gone. And that pattern shows up over and over, and they observe nothing.
Yeah. The thing is, there are tons of stories like this out there. Like if you go onto Facebook and Reddit, tons of people have seen this guy, but yet nothing's been officially documented. It's wild. And that's the thing, really. The story sticks in your mind, not because it's overly scary, but because that subtle tension leaves it lingering behind, you know? It's that split-second hesitation, the what if? And that's what lingers long after the headlights fade.
It's the Bridgewater Triangle's psychological footprint.
Mm-hmm.
People drive through it, hear their stories, and suddenly every shadow, every stretch of dark pavement, every curve at every night feels alive.
Every curve at every night?
Yep. It primes you to notice something you might otherwise ignore, and that's exactly how the legend persists.
Yeah. So that's exactly where it starts, right on Route 44. And that runs through the heart of the Bridgewater Triangle. And I'm looking at my notes, and I feel like I repeated myself, so I don't really have anything to add.
So the first story I want to share comes from a commuter who drove Route 44
Great.
almost every night in the late 80s. He was heading home from Boston, a long stretch, headlights cutting through the dark, music on low, trying not to drift off. And according to him, as he rounded a curve near mile marker 12,
We should go drive out there today.
where the trees lean in close and the road narrows, he noticed a figure standing by the roadside. Bright red hair, jeans, and jacket. Nothing unusual at first, except for the stillness.
Yeah, the stillness is the key, although we're going to talk about other sightings. But most of the time when people see him, he's just standing there. So the driver said he slowed instinctively, and maybe a little too much, because the figure just watched him. It didn't move. It didn't make any gestures. It just stood there and watched him. And then when the guy looked again a few seconds later in his rearview mirror, there was nothing. The guy was completely gone. He swore he hadn't blinked long enough for it to be a trick of the eye. And that is what really got him. It was the sudden disappearance. And that's almost always part of the story with the red-headed hitchhiker.
Another account comes from a woman who was driving home for a late shift at a diner. She described her headlights catching him at the edge of the forest. She said his hair almost glowed in the beams like fire against the dark.
Ooh, that was very literary.
Her first reaction was to slow down and maybe offer a ride. But there was something, a feeling she couldn't explain, a pull in her gut that told her to keep driving. And when she glanced back seconds later, he was gone, and the air felt heavier somehow.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Don't pull over and pick up a random person on the side of the road. And this is a message specifically for our younger listeners, and I know there are some.
Or all listeners, don't pick up hitchhikers.
Yeah, well, yeah, but this is for the kids who may not have heard this lesson before. Don't pick up anyone on the side of the road because you don't know who they are. Anyway, so that's why I can't even blame that first guy for not pulling over, because I wouldn't have even thought to pull over for somebody. But anyway, for most people, and we've talked about this earlier, it's that lingering unease. And while one driver might feel watched, another one might feel a chill, another one might swear the car seemed quieter. And people remember the emotion rather than the details. And it's almost impossible to shake that feeling.
There's also the teenager who reportedly saw him several nights in a row, always near the same mile marker. At first, he thought it was just his eyes playing tricks, but on subsequent nights, same red hair, same jacket, standing still, sometimes closer to the road. He'd drive past, heart racing, and the figure wouldn't move. No explanation, no interaction, just there. And it was enough to make him avoid that stretch of road for years.
Honestly, I would have avoided it myself. And that's kind of where the triangle context comes in, because in this area, between Abington, Rehoboth, and Freetown, it's steeped in old history. There's a ton of old forests, like in Freetown especially. There's a bunch of abandoned buildings, rivers and ponds. There are countless stories of hauntings, literally thousands. And when you're in that kind of an environment, the mind is primed to notice anomalies, right? Sometimes it just looks like shadows stretch differently at night, or headlights flicker strangely across the trees. And sometimes shapes appear in the periphery. That, combined with these kinds of recurring stories and legends, you've got a fertile ground for something like the red-headed hitchhiker story.
And I think part of why these accounts are so memorable is that the hitchhiker doesn't chase you. He doesn't gesture. He doesn't speak. He's a human form standing still, quiet, almost like he's just waiting. The ambiguity creates tension that sticks with drivers long after they left the road.
Yeah, actually, I don't even know if I have this further in the notes because I did this so long ago, but there's been a few accounts of him popping into the back seat of people's
Yes, I've
cars.
heard that.
More than one. I'm telling you, go search Reddit. It's a treasure trove. But I think at the heart of it, it's the consistency in the reports that is what is really the most striking. He always has red hair. He's always pale. He's always in jeans and a jacket, medium build. He's alone at night. And that combination is repeated so often. That's what gives the story its weight. People might doubt it, but I feel like the recurrence keeps it alive.
And here's one more story from a local who grew up in the area. He was driving late at night on Route 44, headlights cutting through the fog that had rolled in from the swamps. Near an abandoned farmhouse, he saw the figure standing perfectly still. He says he slowed, nearly stopped, and in that moment, he felt a pressure in his chest like something was assessing him.
That's frightening.
And when he looked back after a few seconds, nothing. No figure, no footprints, no disturbance in the fog, just the road.
Yeah, that again is another thing that is a recurring theme. It's that he's a presence that isn't threatening in the traditional sense. He doesn't attack, he doesn't yell. He just exists. He's there just enough to make your brain notice, enough to make the hair on your body stand on end, and enough to stick in your memory for the rest of your life.
And what fascinates me is how these stories continue to emerge. Even in the age of dash cams and smartphones, people still share tales online in forums, on local Facebook groups.
Mm-hmm.
Some are clearly folklore, but some may be genuine personal experiences. But the story keeps persisting in one form or another.
I think part of it is you're probably like, so, oh my God, what's happening? By the time you fumble to get your phone out and take a video, you look down and you look back up and he's gone. But there is a Facebook group. I think it's just called the Bridgewater Triangle. I'm a member. Are you a member? I think
Yes.
You're in that group. You'll see stories. There's a lot of stuff in that group. It's actually a great group. A lot of people have seen a lot of things. And that emotional thread, I think that's what makes Route 44's red-headed hitchhiker one of the most enduring legends in the Bridgewater Triangle, besides the Puckwudgies. But we'll get to that. I know I keep hinting. We should actually probably bump that episode up. But I feel like between the Puckwudgies and the red-headed hitchhiker, that's one of the most retold stories, I think, in the Bridgewater Triangle. But, all right, so we've talked about some of the early sightings, the commuter, the chick that worked at a diner, and the teenager, but the stories don't really stop there. There's a ton. There are reports from locals who have grown up driving Route 44 and sometimes seeing him in different spots, and sometimes it's the same spot night after night.
One account comes from a woman who grew up in Rehoboth. She was heading home after visiting friends late at night, around 11:30 p.m., when she saw a figure standing near the edge of a wooden curve close to a mile marker she knew well. Bright red hair, blue jeans, dark jacket. She said she instinctively slowed, but did not stop.
Yeah, she said the figure seemed too perfect in the headlights. Like the hair and jacket caught the light in a way that shouldn't be natural. It was almost luminous. And then when she glanced away for a second and looked back, guess what? He was nowhere to be found.
And she wasn't alone in noticing the small details like that. Another driver, a man in his 20s at the time, saw him near an old abandoned farmhouse along the route. He said he slowed down to see the figure.
Wait, didn't we tell this story already?
Oh, yeah.
I think we did. Yeah, I feel like we already said all this anyway.
All right, so when we go on to Route 44 in the context of the Bridgewater Triangle, it makes even more sense, or at least it explains why so many people are primed to notice something. The triangle is at about 200 square miles of southern Massachusetts.
Okay, go ahead. Carry on.
It includes Abington, Rehoboth, Freetown, parts of Lakeville, and other towns. The area is known for UFO sightings, sometimes multiple in the same night, reports of strange creatures, including phantom cats and wolf-like animals. ghost lights along the swamps and old roads, and generally unexplained phenomenon tied to the forest, ponds, and old farmland.
Yeah, there's a lot of different stories. There's Bigfoot. He was in Bridgewater. There's been multiple UFO sightings, puckwudgies. What else? Thunderbirds. We actually had a guy on the podcast. His name was Harry Green last year. Wait.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was last year.
Last year.
And he had said that he heard that the red-headed hitchhiker was an escapee from the Taunton State Hospital, which was a psych hospital back in the day, which is supposedly very haunted to this day. But I don't think we're ever going to be able to confirm who this guy is. But anyway, if you're driving down Route 44 in Rehoboth late at night, keep an eye out for this guy because he might be standing there or he might pop into the back seat of your car. You never know. Let me know if you hear from him, though, because...
Yes, let us know.
We have several family members in Rehoboth, and every time we've gone out to visit them and we drive home at night, we always look for this guy, and we haven't found him yet, but I kind of want to see him. Not in my back seat, but maybe along the side of the road. I think that would be pretty cool. But yeah, I think that's going to do it, you guys. And I'm going to bump up the Puckwudgie episode too, so we can talk about them in full detail. Because Ewan Chu, keep that in your mind, because I'm going to explain to you what that is when we do the Puckwudgie episode.
All right. See you later, alligator.
In a while, crocodile.